Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, I want us to analyze the tunnel strategy of Hamas, which I think has been a general failure, and I want us to consider why it's been a failure. The reason for this is not to say, yay, Israel, or poo-poo on Hamas and the Palestinians. It's more to understand tunnel strategy, why it might work, why it may not work. If there was ever a dictatorship here in the United States, either one that developed internally or one that was imposed externally, right? I want us to understand, why tunnels might work or why they may not work in terms of trying to counter a dictatorship. Okay, so uh, in in the area of Palestine, the Hamas tunnels have pretty much have turned into a tomb, okay, for the Hamas fighters. Okay, they have not been very useful, I think. And basically, the strategy of the Israelis has been to, basically find the entrances of these tunnels and basically close them in, right? Just bury them in, close the air holes. So let's go down the line over here. So the enemy of tunnels is modern day GPS. Okay, so with modern day GPS, which we all kind of have on our phones, it's easy to identify an area and mark it through GPS coordinates as this is an entrance. Something that was not possible to do, 50 years ago, right? So during the Vietnam War, the North Vietnamese were using tunnels. Okay, so even if you sent, let's say, a sniper team, into the jungle, right? Position them, throughout the jungle to do observation. It was impossible for observers, right, for spies, right, to be able to communicate back the exact position of these tunnels, right? Because prior to GPS, unless you had like a street address, it's really impossible to convey accurate location information. Okay, so now with modern day GPS, you can go to any random spot in the desert or in the middle of an ocean or in the middle of a forest, and be able to accurately convey that spot, those exact coordinates, to somebody to come in and, let's say, bomb them. Okay, so the the Israelis have very effectively been doing that. They've been able to observe the entrances to these tunnels. Now I'm just speculating here, either by themselves or through the use of spies, right? People in the Palestine area that are friendly to the Israelis, that are able to just use their cell phones, to convey, or maybe even some more advanced, uh, you know, laser sighting type of technology, right? I'm sure the Israelis would provide them with some more advanced tools than just a cell phone, where they can kind of laser paint an entrance or location, and then the Israeli army or Israeli intelligence would know exactly what area is being painted. Okay, and then they can come by and just bomb it, at their convenience. Okay, so this is not a technology that was available, some 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Okay, the other thing is modern day technology that you got night vision and you've got thermal imaging, right? Where you can see like a heat source, which again, this is technology that's available to the Israelis, not so much available to the to the Hamas people. I'm sure they've got some very basic equipment that I mean, you can buy stuff through the regular market, right? But certainly not as much of it, right? And the more importantly, they can't really use it as effectively, because let's say the Hamas people, they might be able to use thermal technology to identify or pick out specific, let's say, Israeli combatants, right, that are in the area, right? But the best they can do is target us, let's say, those people, whereas the Israelis are able to engage, to get into an engagement with these Hamas people. It doesn't even matter that much if they themselves take, a couple of casualties. Once they see them, right, and they can put some fire on them through thermal technology, they can see what position they retreat to and then disappear, and then they know exactly where the opening to one of these tunnels is, right? So again, this modern night vision and thermal technology kind of renders these tunnels obsolete. Certainly at the point where you have like pretty much complete air dominance and are in a position to basically come in with tanks and completely put a perimeter around a given area. Okay. I think that the modern technology has made the concept of using tunnels kind of obsolete. Okay, so I think that's that's the big problem here with why the Hamas tunnel system is not working. Okay, just modern technology, particularly GPS technology, where they can pinpoint and record certain locations is kind of making it obsolete. Okay, now the next problem that I see with these tunnels is that these are deep, permanent tunnels. Okay, so it takes a long time to build them, right? Because they are deep and permanent. Where they have like a concrete structure to them, right? So this creates an air problem because it's so deep in the ground. They need to be able to force air down into these tunnels. So once you close off the entrances, right, if you can identify the airports, right, the ports that they have for drawing in air, you can basically, the people down there are going to suffocate, right? They might last for a couple of hours or a couple of weeks, but they're not going to last months. Okay, so the fact that these are deep, permanent tunnels kind of works against the very tactic of using a tunnel strategy. Okay, and the fact that they're permanent and they took such a long, because they're so permanent and deep, it took a long time for them to build them, right? So while they were being built, I'm sure that the Israelis had spies in the area that were conveying that information back, to whatever, Israeli intelligence. Okay, again, because these were like deep, permanent tunnels. They were a major construction project in themselves. These aren't like kind of like light temporary tunnels where it takes you, let's say, like a week to dig out a certain area, and then a week later you dig into a different area. Like kind of like they did during the Vietnam. And although some of them were pretty deep, with the amount of time and effort that they put into building these deep tunnels, the Israelis were able to gather that information. Okay. The other problem is that these tunnels are basically under buildings. Okay, so what happens is the Israelis are basically using the buildings themselves that are above the tunnels to bury the tunnel entrances. Right, so they bomb the buildings above them. The buildings collapse. They close the tunnel entrances. Okay, so the Israelis are using the buildings above the tunnels to close the entrances and the air holes. Okay. And here's the interesting thing, once the airplanes come through and, let's say, bomb an area, or they use artillery to bomb an area, the Hamas people themselves, right, they would not be able to find what was the entrance to the tunnel, because after the area gets bombed, it looks completely different. Okay, so the Israelis would probably have a better chance of finding the entrances to those tunnels because of the GPS technology. They can say, yep, right here under this rubble, this pile of rocks, that's where the entrance was. The Hamas people without GPS would not be able to do that. Okay, so again, GPS is working in favor of and technology in general, working in favor of the Israelis. Okay, so the buildings overhead, again, that's basically more material to cover up the entrance to the tunnels. Okay. Okay, next problem here, okay? Wrong location, okay? This tunnel system would probably have been a lot more effective if it was underneath Tel Aviv, right? If it was basically underneath the feet of the people that were fighting, okay? Because if it was, let's say, in Tel Aviv, right, the Israelis would have been a lot more conservative about, bombing their own city to destroy the tunnels, okay? Basically what Hamas did is they put these tunnels underneath their own houses, okay, which the Israelis, really don't mind bombing, okay. So wrong location. They put these tunnels in the wrong place. Okay? Now I can fully understand that the Hamas people had envisioned the Israelis using completely different tactics. They thought that maybe the Israelis were going to kind of do like raids, like kind of like come in and go out. They did not envision a full campaign of where the goal is basically to destroy the tunnels, right? Because the problem is that these tunnels, because they're so permanent, and they've been there for such a long period of time, that have been developed. Destroying these tunnels is the central strategy of the people that they're fighting. Okay. So that's part of the reason why this tunnel idea is not effective, because it just made it's become the target, the main target of the people that they're fighting. Okay, so wrong location. They probably these tunnels would have been a lot more effective if they were, let's say, in Israeli cities. Okay, now I'm not. How would they get them there? That's a whole other story. But I'm just saying, putting tunnels underneath their own houses, okay, is not very effective if the people that they're fighting are perfectly willing to blow up their houses. Okay, again, feeding it to wrong location, spies. Okay, not all Palestinians love Hamas. Okay, in fact, now with this war going on, a lot of Palestinians, and I've seen some video of this, are actually blaming Hamas for bringing this fight to them. Okay, so there's a lot of people in Palestine that are very happy to give up, information with regard to these tunnels and their locations, and they don't know who these people are. And again, because these tunnels are so long and permanent, anybody living in that area probably knows where they are. Okay, so again, this making those tunnels not very effective. Okay, other problem with these tunnels is that they have no external links. Okay, so the Hamas tunnels are in Palestine, in the Gaza area. Okay, the people that they are allied with, let's say with Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, Iran. Okay, these people are too far to be able to help them in the tunnels. Okay, and essentially they gotta travel over a long, wide open area in order to get to this tunnel location. So what they have done is they have isolated themselves in the tunnels. Okay, and they're not able to get any external help. So this is not something that's helping them. Part of the reason why the Arabs were so successful in the 7th century, right, is because the Arabs basically came out of Saudi Arabia, right, and they essentially invaded these areas, because all these areas, the area of Egypt, Palestine, Syria, these were all areas that belonged to the Byzantines, right? These are Byzantine, Christian Byzantine areas. And what the Arabs were able to do is they came out of Saudi Arabia on horses, and they were able to do these hit and run tactics, and then kind of disappear into the desert, right? So you got these Byzantine armies that were stationed there ready to deal with them, but they weren't. The Arabs weren't attacking Byzantine armies. They were attacking everywhere other than where the Byzantine armies were. Okay, so the Byzantine armies were continually getting spread out, and then they were able to kind of pick them off like that. Okay, so what we see here is a reverse strategy. Okay, whereas in the 7th century the Arabs were doing hit and run tactics on horses. Okay, in this case, the Israelis are doing hit and run tactics with airplanes, right? They're able to come in, attack, get out. Okay, so I just think it's interesting how that's the desert, right, and these big distances that made the Arabs very successful back in the 7th century is now working against them. The Israelis using airplanes are able to take advantage of the desert in a similar way, and like I said, because of these vast distances and open areas, the Hamas in the tunnels is basically cut off from the rest of their allies, right? From Hezbollah, from the Houthis, and from Iran. They're just completely cut off. Okay, so other problem with this tunnel strategy is because they're isolated. They have no offense. Okay, so the Hamas is in these tunnels. The best that they can do is use these tunnels to hide in. Okay, they're not able to use this tunnel system to attack Israel, the Israelis back home. Okay, they can't attack. They just have no real offensive capability. I mean, yeah, they might be able to fire a couple of rockets in the direction of Israel, and maybe if you get through and maybe cause a couple of do some damage, but it's not gonna. They're not capable of causing any strategic damage to Israel to weaken them in any way. Okay, so this vast tunnel network that they have, right? This long, I think something like 200 miles of tunnel that they have under Gaza. Okay, it's purely defensive. It has no offensive capability, right? And once they seal off the entrances and cut off the air holes, I mean, they're just going to suffocate in those tunnels. Okay. The other problem is that there's a lack of information. Okay, again, so they're isolated in these tunnels. The Israelis are able to observe them, study them, see what they're doing, find their pinpoint their locations, convey that information back home to a large network that's working against Hamas here. Okay, Hamas on the other hand is not able to observe the Israelis. Okay, they're not able to send information to their allies, let's say Hezbollah or the Houthis or Iran. Okay, they're like purely isolated. So with this tunnel system, they're not even able to convey information to their allies. They just cut off. Okay, so again, these are all reasons why this tunnel strategy of Hamas is just a complete failure. Okay, and the other problem is that because they've put these tunnels under basically a civilian area, they're losing support of the population. Okay, we've seen basically a lot of the Palestinians are like, why'd you put your military structure infrastructure underneath our homes? Okay, so they're losing popular support. We've seen lots of there's clips here and there of a lot of the Palestinians not very happy with Hamas. Okay, because they're putting the civilian population in danger. They've got tunnels, they've got like a command and control center underneath the hospital, right? And that's in that area. Okay, so again, this is information that leaks out into the population, and it's not going to turn 100% of the population against Hamas, but it's going to turn enough of it, like even if it's 5%, 10%, that's enough so that if you get 5 or 10% of the people that hate Hamas, right, and they're willing to work with the Israelis to end this conflict even faster, because from the position of the population, it's like, okay, the sooner we get Hamas eliminated, the faster this war can end, and the faster we can stop getting killed here. Okay, so the civilian population or a significant portion of the civilian population is seeing that the safest way for them is to help the Israelis defeat Hamas. Okay, so again, this all goes back to wrong location. Okay, so this is all a summary of why this tunnel system has basically just turned into a tomb for these Hamas fighters. And again, the purpose of this video is not to say, yay, Israel, die Hamas. All right, that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to study the tunnel strategy, okay, and consider why in certain places at certain times, like let's say during the Vietnam War, it was effective, okay, versus especially most importantly effective in the jungle where they had good cover, right? They had tree cover, and prior to GPS technology, and comparing to why now the tunnel system, this tunnel strategy, is not effective, especially in a pretty much a desert area with modern day technology. Okay, so that's the thing that we're considering and we're studying here. So let me know if you guys have any other ideas. Okay, again, obviously I'm not there. I'm gathering little pieces, here and there as I see them come up in the news. So this is the information I've been able to gather as to why this tunnel strategy is not working. If you guys think differently or if you have anything else to add, please put in the comments. I'll talk to y'all soon. Hey everyone, I just wanted to add one other bit of information. I think like 2 or 3 days ago, the leader of Hezbollah, which is one of Hamas's allies, came out and basically made a general announcement condemning what was going on in Gaza, but falling short of saying that, hey, they were all in, that they were going to ride in and assist and aid Hamas. They basically said, hey, all you other Arabs out there, you guys should do something. Okay, they didn't say that Hezbollah didn't say that they were going to do something. They said that basically other people out there should do something, and I think that's indicative of Hezbollah saying, "Wait a second, we've got the same tunnel structure here. The tunnels aren't working so great for Hamas. They're probably not going to work so great for us either." So I think that that's like an indicator of how this tunnel strategy is being perceived, and I think Hezbollah, seeing what's going on in Gaza with Hamas, is seeing that it's probably not going to be. That their tunnel strategy will probably be just as much of a failure as the one that Hamas is using in Gaza. So I just wanted to add that extra bit of information.